Welcome to Haunted Narratives, where reality meets the supernatural. Prepare to be captivated by spine chilling tales of real life hauntings and paranormal encounters. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to never miss out on a hauntingly good story. So let's start our next story in this haunted narrative series. Kutti Little Devils. After the breathtaking encounter with the Sunyakari, Naynar and his wife had shifted to a new place with their newborn. Naynar's wife was not able to forget the dreadful night and the vision of that monstrous tongue creeping out of the wall. She always prayed and gave thanks to God for protecting her and her child. Now, after almost 2 years, they were living happily with their daughter, which they had named Zevrin. The baby had the innocence and beauty like an angel. Both Naynar and his wife were happy and got busy in their life and tried to forget about what had happened with them. Naynar got a new job in some other factory. Daily, he used to go in morning and returned late at night. Naynar's factory was in another village far from his house. On his way, he had to pass through a secluded path with trees all around it. In the middle of that area, there was an old temple dedicated to goddess Kaali. Naynar used to come from that path daily at night. He used to see lamp lit all around the temple and a big fire burning in front of the temple. He used to always pray his holy rosary on his way back to keep himself safe and protected from any kind of supernatural things. One day, while returning home, Naynar saw many people standing in front of the temple and performing some ritual near the holy fire. Many pandits and aghoris were standing there too. The aghoris were looking ferocious. They were covered with ash all over their body. Their forehead was smudged with vermilion and their eyes were red like blood. Looking at them, Naynar stopped for a second, but just then, he felt someone coming towards him. He started to walk straight towards his house direction. On his way back, he was hearing rustling of leaves and footsteps walking behind him. But he didn't look. As soon as he reached near his house, the noises stopped. Naynar was sweating badly. His wife asked him, but Naynar didn't told anything to her. He was knowing that if his wife comes to know what had happened on his way back, she will get worried again. Naynar was lying on his bed and thinking about the noises and footsteps that had followed him back on his way. Next morning, Naynar got up and was about to leave for his work. Just then an old lady from the neighborhood came and she was talking with Naynar's wife. The old lady saw Naynar and she felt as if Naynar was disturbed with something. She asked him what was the matter, but Naynar refused and said, "Maybe it's because of the new workplace." The lady went out and sat in front of her house. The lady was waiting for Naynar to come out so that she can ask him the reason. As soon as Naynar was passing from in front of her house, she called him and said to be careful while coming from the temple's path. She told Naynar that the Kaali temple is one of the oldest and famous for its mantravadin, that is sorcerers and pandits. She continued telling him that they possess great powers and they can control any human and evils with their mantras. She told him to be very careful as many Kutti little devils, are also roaming near the temple. The Mantravadin offers Bali, sacrifices to goddess Kaali, every month. And during this time, Kutti come to feast on the blood of the sacrificial animal. Naynar heard the old lady's talk and requested her not to tell anything about this to her wife, as she might start worrying for his well-being. The old lady once again warned Naynar and told never to look back while coming from that path. Even if someone calls him with his name, he shouldn't look back. There was a look of fear on the face of the old lady. These words from her mouth and the look on her face made Naynar more restless. He left for his work thinking about the old lady's word and Kutti Pisas. Few days later, as Naynar was leaving for his work, he told his wife that he might come late tonight as he had some urgent work to be completed by today itself. Naynar's wife told him not to worry about her and their daughter. She will call one of their neighbor to stay with her for the night. Naynar left for his work and got busy in his job. The whole day he was busy completing his work. It was almost 11 in the night. All his co-workers decided to stay back in the factory and go to their home at morning. But Naynar was worried for his wife. He told them he won't be able to stay back with them as his wife is alone at home, and he left from the factory. It was dark everywhere. Naynar was walking towards his home. As he was walking, he started to hear sound of drums and people chanting mantras in distance. His pace was slowed down. As he was moving towards the direction of the sound was getting louder and clearer. Reaching just few meters away from the temple, Naynar was dumbstruck. Naynar was standing still and started to sweat profusely. He was not able to believe on his eyes what he was looking at in front of him. He saw the Mantravadan sorcerer were chanting mantras loudly and praising the goddess. One of them was holding a big copper plate in which there was a head of an animal whom they must have sacrificed. The other person behind him had another copper plate with rice which was mixed with the blood of the sacrificed animal, and he was throwing them down on both the sides of the path. As the person was throwing the rice, Naynar saw many small childlike figures came out of the shadows and started to feast on the rice smeared with blood. Naynar went into a state of shock. Somehow he removed his holy rosary from his neck and started praying loudly. As soon as the black childlike figurines heard Naynar praying, they all started to look towards Naynar. Naynar's face had turned pale with fear as he saw the human childlike shadow of the dark with red glowing eyes and tiny horns on their foreheads. They all started to screech like bats. They were screaming on top of their voice, looking towards Naynar. Naynar got scared looking at those vicious eyes, but he didn't stop praying. Hearing the noises, the Mantravadan all turned back and saw Kutti Pisas looking towards Naynar and screaming. They rushed toward Naynar and said him to stop at once, but Naynar wasn't ready to listen them. He continuously prayed loudly. Then one of the Aghori came forward and said to Naynar to stop and come with them, as they mean no harm to him. Naynar was not ready to listen to them, but they pleaded him to come with them, as Naynar's prayer was causing obstacle in their rituals. They assured Naynar no one will cause any harm to him. Naynar stopped praying, and all of a sudden, all the black creepy shadows started again to feast on the rice. The Mantravadan took Naynar with him inside the temple. As they were walking from the middle of the shadow, again they started to growl upon Naynar. Naynar had kept his holy rosary in his hand itself. He was holding it tightly near his chest. The Pandits and Aghoris brought Naynar inside the temple and asked him to sit near the holy fire. Naynar got scared. He thought, what if they had brought him to give Bali, that is sacrifice, in front of the goddess? But just then, one of the Pandit came towards him and gave Naynar water to drink. Naynar was terrified from inside, but he maintained his cool. They all were staring at Naynar in surprise. They told Naynar that he is the first person to see those black childlike shadows who were Kutti Pisas, little devils, so closely. And he was the first person from whom they got scared. They asked Naynar about the Holy Rosary. Naynar then explained them that it was the Holy Rosary which he prays daily, which helps him to protect from any kind of evil affliction. One of the Aghori came forward and said Naynar that indeed he was a lucky man and blessed by God, as no one has ever lived alive after looking at those Kutti Pisas. Naynar told them that he will have to leave as his wife was alone at home. But the Pandits told him to stay in the temple itself till the sun rises, as it would be dangerous to go out again. The whole night, Naynar sat with them. In between, he was hearing all kinds of dreadful noises, screaming, screeching, shouting, wailing, and don't know what else. As the morning dawned, the Mantravadan came out with Naynar and told him that he was very courageous to see all that had happened last night. They told Naynar, whenever he needs help, he can count on them. No evil will harm him. Naynar thanked them and left for his house. As soon as he reached near his house, he saw his wife waiting outside the house for him. Naynar's wife ran towards Naynar and asked him if he was alright. Naynar told her not to worry, as he was in the factory itself the whole night. Later that night, while they were sleeping, Naynar's wife told him about Kutti Pisas. The old lady had told her everything. Naynar was listening to her as if he was hearing it for the first time. But deep down in his heart, he was smiling and giving thanks to God for once again saving him and bringing back safely from the creepy clutches of those Kutti Pisas. Thank you for listening to my story, Kutti Pisas, Little Devils, in this haunted narrative series. For many more haunting stories like this, please do like, share, and subscribe to Haunted Narratives. Thank you.